Now, Timur, you are calling us from a war zone. There have been Russian shelling attacks in Kharkiv since February 24th. Tell us about the obstacles that you and your team are facing while trying to bring these necessities to people in Saltovka.
The situation is very hard in Kharkiv. We are being bombed and shelled constantly by the Russian forces. Our team is trying to get aid to the residents of Kharkiv. We have not been able to obtain aid from any of the larger organizations that are on the ground. So the situation is very difficult in our area.
And from previous conversations, we know some of your team members have been injured. You're literally risking your lives in Kharkiv. So how is your team managing while working in this dangerous environment? What's keeping you guys going?
Our unwavering spirit is what gets us through. We're not slaves to any forces. We're Ukrainians and we have democracy. So what will get us through these hard times is our hearts, because we stand with Ukraine.
Now, and for my most recent updates from Ukraine Now volunteers, we know that you and your family are now safe in Germany with relatives. Can you walk us through how you were able to make it from this war zone in Kyiv to Germany?
Our journey took for 1 week from Kyiv to Germany. We didn't want to go anywhere. We just want to sit at home. But I watched news in the evening time and saw that 18 months baby boy was killed. And then I realized that I should save my kids, my mom, and we just sit on next train next day. When we were outside of Kyiv, it's near Vasilkiv, we see how bombs were exploded. And we heard it, and we hear a lot of sounds of explosions, fire, and that was really scary when we went by train on the way to Lviv. Very scared, was very scared to die in a train.
Sounds like a terrifying journey, and well, we are glad that you're safe, but we did mention that you had to leave your husbands behind on this journey. So can you take us back to that moment that you had to say goodbye?
Yes, I cried all the day that we decided to divide it, and it was most heartbreaking decisions that I should do, and my mom the same.
And have any of the other families that you may have met on your journey to Germany or to safety shared that sentiment that they want to return to Ukraine, even if they have access to the United States or Canada?
Yes, all our friends who now lived in Germany, all who wants to go somewhere, they all want to be at home. Just see the train, sit and went. Because our home is in Ukraine.
He joins us from a medical checkpoint in Ukraine near the Polish border. Dr. Fong, welcome to Forum Daily.
Thank you very much, Nima. Glad to be with you.
Sir, tell us a little bit more about the work you're doing on the ground and what kind of challenges you and your team are facing amid this war.
So CMET has been providing mostly primary care, and that means mostly what you would imagine a family doctor would do.
A quick 30 seconds left here, but how can our Canadian viewers help you and your team's efforts?
Sure, that's a great question. I think one of the things on the top of my team's mind, we had a discussion actually earlier as to this, is just to be careful about information that you see on social media, and if you decide to share something, be very careful that it's correct information, comes from a reputable source, and be careful not to spread misinformation. As well as if you decide to donate to various charities or organizations, I highly recommend just checking out as to how they're spending those funds and making sure that they're doing good work.
Meanwhile, as some escape the war zone in Ukraine, others volunteer to help within it. Multiple volunteer evacuation organizations that were formed to help in Afghanistan following the U.S. withdrawal and Taliban takeover there are now expanding their operations to help Ukrainian refugees. And joining us now to tell us more about these efforts made by his own nonprofit is Lieutenant Colonel Perry Blackburn, retired U.S. Army officer and Green Beret and founder of AFG Free.
In Ukraine specifically, what we look at is working in the shadows, in the crawl spaces, where can we go to make sure that the folks that we are helping are safe, and also that we're able to get the supplies to the people that need it without being disrupted or commandeered by another faction or the Russians, who would also need the same things, supplies that we're given. You know, I hate to say it, this all works with money. We're all private funded. We're not big NGOs. And matter of fact, that's why we're doing more, bigger, better things than the NGOs, is because we do have that network and we're working in that area. What we learned real quick is you got to get money to the people for humanitarian aid. And we've been able to do that.
I'm Nima Rajan, and this is your Ukraine crisis update for Wednesday, March 30th. For decades, the free flow of trade across much of the world allowed the richest nations to enjoy easy access to low-priced goods and supplies. Now, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has delivered a devastating blow to that system. Prices have shot up further, and supply chains already disrupted by the pandemic recession face renewed pressure. The president of Poland has compared Russia's attacks on Ukraine to those of Nazi forces during World War II. He said the besieged Mariupol looks like Warsaw did in 1944 after the Germans bombed houses and killed civilians, quote, with no mercy at all. And Immigration Minister Sean Fraser says Canada is going to let Ukrainians who have fled the war stay here for 3 years. That's an increase over the initial offer of a 2-year stay. The government expects applications will take about 2 weeks to process for standard non-complex cases. For more news, be sure to join us tonight at 6 p.m., 9 p.m., or 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Forum Daily.